Welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU. We are back for episode 93 of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Today we are joined by KU alum Pat Strathman. He's a station manager at ESPN-Wichita 92.3, and he hosts his daily Pulse show. Welcome, Pat.
Hey, Steve, thank you so much for having me. I'm probably one of the few people that probably know how to say your last name correctly. So glad to be here with you.
Do you know how to spell it?
Of course I do. Now, of course I can cheat by looking at the deal, but like I'm used to it. When people recognize I'm from Seneca, they immediately go, "Hey, do you know a Riding House?" I'm like, "Which one?" Like there's a thousand of them up there in Nemaha County.
Yeah, I always say it's kind of like
specific.
I always say it's like Smith and Johnson up there. They're always amazed when I say that. So, yeah, no, I've got some strong Nemaha County connections. So, and congrats. I know you're the 2024 Kansas Sportscaster of the Year winner.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, definitely a crazy thing for sure. One of those things where you look at the National Sports Media Association. I remember when I was at KU, probably my junior year, is when Dave Gorin, who's the president, he's the one who followed me on Twitter, now X, of course. Of course, we've got there's some changes there, but I remember talking to Dave back then, just thinking, hey, it's such a cool thing that you guys are doing, honoring a bunch of broadcasters who definitely deserve a lot of recognition, as well as sports writers who don't get a lot of recognition. And last year, ended up being nominated, and I thought that in itself was a great honor. Brian Haney ended up winning it, which that made my heart super happy because Brian's such a good dude. But Brian sent me a text. He goes, "Listen, man, like you're at the top of my list every year. I'm going to nominate you." I'm like, "You don't have to do that. I hope you understand it. There are other quality broadcasters out there. Just look at Wyatt Thompson at K-State, Mike Kennedy at Wichita State, and a bunch of other people that no one probably really talk about out there in the state of Kansas." But this year was definitely a little bit different. So I got nominated again. I thought, cool, that's a great honor. But here I am on a bus in Birmingham, Alabama, covering Wichita State women's basketball. And my phone ended up ringing, and it said Dave Gorin on there. And I'm like, all right, why is Dave calling? And Dave had the honor of saying, hey, congratulations, you were named Sportscaster of the Year. So I'm glad that so many broadcasters said no so I could get a chance. But I got to say the award is – it's not about me. It's a we award, not a me award. I couldn't do what I do without a wonderful and supporting wife in Kara, who's just been amazing. We're expecting our second baby coming up in October, which is so exciting. And I can't do what I do without wonderful teammates here at ESPN Wichita. I can't do what I do without the wonderful support and mentorship from guys like Brian. So many people who have helped me along the way. So real big honor for sure, and definitely humbled by it all. So looking forward to getting out there in North Carolina come June to actually bring back some hardware.
And your Kansas roots run deep. I know you're from Northeast Kansas. Obviously, you went to KU, and your career has been in Kansas, Atchison, Topeka, Salina, and now Wichita. Was that the plan to always kind of stay in Kansas, or is it just kind of came about?
Got lucky. It's a good way to describe it. No, I think when you enter this industry, you really have to come to terms of understanding that you're going to have to move, and you might have to move quickly. You might have to jump from one spot to another in order to climb up the ladder. You have to jump. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity just to sit around and be in the same state. But I've been so blessed that all the work that I did in college led me on this journey, on this path. When I went to Atchison, ended up accepting a job there, but they created a position for me in Atchison. The company did. And that company gave me my first internship, which was unpaid, but it led to part-time work down the line, did some different broadcasts for state volleyball, state basketball, you name it. Well, then after my sophomore campaign at KU, ended up getting another internship with 580 WIBW. Well, when Ryan Elder left to get out of the industry, Jake LeBon gave me a call and said, hey, would you be interested in coming to Topeka? I said, sure, sounds great. But even then, that position was supposed to be part news, part sports. And I wasn't sold on it. Like, I don't know. And then Jake ended up going down and fighting for me and said, hey, listen, we're going to do this. You're going to have to do this. I go, done. All sports? Done. I'm in. 580 WIBW is such a heritage station, so it's just an honor to work there. And then you get to Salina, ended up knowing a guy in Mike Hammett who was going to go the Division II route, going down to Weatherford, Oklahoma, and he was a guy who kind of followed me along my journey, and he recognized that I worked at Topeka and said, "Hey, I'm about to leave. I think you'd be a perfect fit. I'm fighting for you." I'm like, "Okay, cool, sounds great." So I take the leap there in Salina, and then when ESPN Wichita was created back in June of 2021, I picked up the phone, come to find out who owned it, and Union Broadcasting, and a group of local investors here in Wichita. And I said, all right, I want to work with those people. Well, way back when I was a senior at KU, I interned with the Jayhawk Sports Network. And Nate Bucati was the guy who I interned for women's basketball. And Nate, with the 810 connections, Nate talked to the owners about potentially giving me a chance. And next you know, here I am in Wichita, a place I never would have thought I would work in a million years, but I've just been so fortunate to make those connections and to continue to just climb the ladder, if you will, because I've never wanted to leave this state. I've always wanted to be a part of Kansas, but I understood that if I had to leave, you have to leave. It's what you got to do. You got to follow your dreams and your passion. And fortunately for me, I've been able to do that all right here in the Sunflower State. That part's been very beneficial, and I know my wife's family's happy with that. I know my family is happy with that. So I'm glad to still be here in the state of Kansas.
And it is an exciting time to be in the state and Wichita. You just had that big 2 weeks ago NCAA tournament. I imagine you had a lot of stuff to cover that week.
just just a few. I know we were disappointed because our Kansas Jayhawks weren't a part of the Wichita Regional. When we started planning this ESPN Wichita fan zone at historic Union Station. We were able to partner up with so many great partners, and we were able to get partners ourselves on ESPN Wichita saying, "Hey, come out and be a part of it." And when we started planning, of course, you have the high hopes of Kansas being a number one seed, being there, everyone flocking to Wichita. Didn't happen, but we were so fortunate to get Drake, even Mizzou. I know that's kind of a dirty thing to say, but even Mizzou. Texas Tech was there as well. Houston. It was a great draw. We had probably 15,000 people come in our area over a 3 day period, and I always thought that it was going to be big. I didn't expect it to be that big. I'm glad it was though, because man, it was great. And who would have thought that the weather would have been okay? Because Wednesday it was snowy and it was a bunch of wind, and we're thinking, how on earth are we going to have this event outside for the next 3 days? And then Mother Nature decided to help us out a little bit, and we pulled off one incredible event, something that doesn't happen all too often, but we knew as a station that we continue to be a part of the fabric of the community. We've done our own golf tournament. We've been part of the Wichita Open. We've been home of the Wichita Wind Surge. We're the radio home of KU. We got so many partnerships. It's important for us to continue to give back to the community in some different ways. And this ESPN Wichita fan zone a couple of weeks ago. Last week, I'm not going to lie, Steve, it felt like a Monday every day. It was like an NCAA tournament hangover. I was like, what do I do? I don't know what to do this week. This is strange. Fortunately, we're back on track for this week. But man, it was a blast. It was great.
And I know you shared some great photos from your KU experiences, and you had the nice suit and everything. It looks like you covered some NCAA tournaments during your college days.
Yeah, no, very, very blessed. Funny enough, when I went down to Fort Worth, Texas, it was the American Athletic Conference Championship Tournament for the women, as I cover Wichita State women's basketball. And I went to go grab a water, and next thing you know, I run into Jim Marchioni, who used to be there for KU Athletics for so many years, who I think is enjoying retirement quite a bit, which I'm excited for. But just running in the gym just gave me flashbacks to when I was at KU. We were courtside and we got a chance to broadcast some legendary games there for KU. Gosh, everyone keeps coming up to me. I've been in this industry now for what, 12 years? Gosh, I'm getting old. I've been in this industry for 12 years, and people come up and they go, "What's the best game you've ever broadcast? What's the best one?" I go, "Can I go back to my college days? Does that count?" They're like, "What do you mean?" I go, "I got to witness the final border war with KU and Mizzou." Thomas Robinson getting an incredible block. Some Mizzou fans would disagree, but it gets an incredible block right in front of me. I remember that game because David Elliott was on the call, and David and I were talking beforehand. He goes, "Hey, what half do you want?" Because back then you would take one half of play-by-play, and then you would switch the color for the next half. And he was such a nice guy. He goes, "Hey, what half do you want?" I go, "Second half." And next thing you know, KU's down 19. I'm thinking, maybe not a good decision. Well, then I got to witness one of the most epic comebacks in KU basketball history in that building. And then to hear Allen Fieldhouse that loud, nothing has ever topped it. And then you get to the NCAA tournament. Man, I've been fortunate to get the call some incredible games as well. My junior year, we went up to Omaha, and KU ended up matching up with Purdue in the second round. That's when Robbie Hummel went off, and KU led for I think a total of 38 seconds. Elijah Johnson got a steal and then a layup, and that was the only time they led. That was it, just 38 seconds, something like that. And then the next year, my senior year, we had KU in Kansas City when they faced North Carolina, and I couldn't pass that opportunity as the KJHK sports director. I'm like, hey, I gotta do the first round here. This is gonna be cool. Technically second round, but to have Roy Williams going head to head with Bill Self, that was such a cool thing. So many wonderful opportunities back then during my time at KU, and it only helped me to build confidence for the future that you could do those things. And when you get the play by play opportunities and the reps that you get, it's so crucial. It's such a crucial thing to get nowadays, to get those reps, and then you become more prepared for the actual real thing, if you will, once you get to the actual industry.
And Pat, going back to that KU Missouri game, do you remember your call on the Robinson block? I
I
mean,
do.
what
I still have it saved. I think
is it?
it's actually on YouTube. It was something as simple as just like going in for the layup, blocked by Thomas Robinson, and we have overtime or something like that. And then to wrap it up in OT, they didn't get a shot off. And like Dixon, he's not gonna get a shot off in Kansas. Wins the final border war showdown in history, something like that. And man, I still get goosebumps thinking about that one game. And what's even cooler is it's you have TBT now, the basketball tournament, which has been so prevalent in Wichita. The last couple of years, I've been able to do games for, well, now it's called Jayhawks, but the last couple of years it was Mastery. And Thomas Robinson was a part of it 2 years ago. And I remember going up to T Rob and going, listen, man, you're not going to remember this, but back in my day when I was on campus, you and I actually played at the rec center together.
Nice.
And with the Morris twins. And we went against the Morris twins and we ended up winning. And from that point forward on campus, every time I saw T Rob, it would be a little head nod to me. And I'm like, okay, all right, T Rob and I are close now, right? Although we're not really that close, but we had a chance to talk about that a couple years ago, and such a cool thing to run into him once again because man, he's one of my all time favorites, and I'll never forget that one game against Mizzou.
And I know you've had a versatile career. I mean, you do play-by-play, color, producing, your radio show. Is there one area you like more than the other, or you just kind of like a little bit of everything?
Well, I think it really reflects what I did at KU because that's what I did at KU. I did a little bit of everything. I didn't say no. My final year when I was a senior, I think I had 5 jobs at once, but it was for good reason. I helped out with KUJH as a TV anchor for the sports side of things. I was the KJHK sports director. I was the sports editor for the University of Daily Kansan. My final semester there, um, I did an internship with Jayhawk, IMG back then, the Jayhawk Sports Network, and then I had a part-time gig over in Topeka, working overnight Saturday night at 10, the Sundays at 6 a.m.
Wow.
Probably not the wisest of decisions. I know some people want to have the experience for college, but for me, it was how can I open up doors and how can I become the most well-rounded broadcaster or the most well-rounded journalist for that matter? Because I think one of the best courses I ever took when I was at KU was copy editing, and Doug Ward was teaching it at the time. And Doug, I believe, ties with New York Times, if I recall correctly, being an editor. And I just thought that course was such a necessity for me because it allowed me to shorten my calls. I understand I don't have to use multiple words to describe this. I can shorten it and make a better call. So I've had that course in itself was big. I didn't turn out to be a writer, but I think having those writing skills so crucial for my success here in this industry today. I love it all, Steve. I really do. To be in this industry just in itself is a blessing. To be able to do play by play has always been the one thing I think I've really enjoyed a lot because you're at the game and you get to paint the picture, you get to set the story. You're the dude. But I've also enjoyed doing play by play on ESPN Plus now, which I've done that a couple times. Which I think some people go, well, which do you prefer, radio, TV? I'm like, I just love doing play by play. Just give me an assignment, I'll be more happy to do it. Producing wise, same thing. You don't hear like you're not talking, but I think it's refreshing to be behind the scenes and to see how it all comes together because you can build the moment with the play by play guy and the color guy. If it's a crucial 3rd down and 6 coming up that's going to decide the game, I'm probably going to bump up the crowd noise a little bit to make it sound a little bit more epic because that's what you should be doing. You should be building the moment just like the play by play guy and the color guy is. And to be able to host the show every day, I think that in itself is exciting because it's not the same thing over and over again. I think it's something new every single day, and that part I do enjoy. So yeah, I've done a little bit of everything, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for people to think of me in that way, to ask me, hey, would you be interested in this? I tell kids all the time nowadays. I know it's easy to say no. It's really easy to say no nowadays. But I cannot encourage it enough to say yes to everything. Heck, Bob Newton back when I was at KU, the producer aspect, I feel like I'm an engineer. I feel like I'm an engineer some days in my role as a station manager. There are times where something might go wrong at the transmitter site. I don't know everything, but I know I have to hop in a car, drive up to Newton, and take a look at some of the things to figure out what to do. I feel like having an engineering brain has helped me out. So I can't stress it enough that to be a jack of all trades. I know everyone wants to specialize in some stuff, and that's totally fine. But if you don't know what you want to do, just continue to say yes to any opportunity, and then maybe you'll find what you want to specialize in, or maybe you'll say, you know what, I like having all these opportunities. I'm going to do as many things as possible.
No, well said. Yeah, I think a lot of students, they try to focus on that one thing, but I think the more areas you can get exposed to early on can definitely help you in the long run. I know you mentioned your wife, Kara, a couple of times. How do you find that work-life balance? I know with the grind of the play-by-play, I mean, I know it can be a challenge at time. How do you kind of find that balance?
Just rely on a wife who is very respectful and understands that this is my life and this is how it goes. I feel so terrible. This past year was the first time I did Wichita State women's basketball. So I was traveling with the team. And there was one week, the final road trip, where we went to Philadelphia and then to New Orleans. And I was gone for what, Tuesday all the way until Saturday night. And fortunately, we have a wonderful stable of family members here in Wichita. Her dad, my father-in-law, is just 10 to 15 minutes away. Her sister's not too far away. So I'm very blessed to have them to be willing to help out with Grace and to help out Kara. But yeah, how do you balance it? It's very hard, right? It's hard because heck, even last week for ESPN Plus, I had 5 broadcasts for Wichita State softball, Central Arkansas, Oklahoma, and then a 3-game set against South Florida. So you're prepping on Monday, you're prepping again on Tuesday after the game, you're prepping again on Wednesday or Thursday. You just continue to prep, just nonstop. When baby gets put to bed, that's usually when, okay, I gotta go to work. And I'm just so grateful to have a wife who understands the grind of it all. And there are so many times where I just look at her and I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry to put you through some of this stuff. But she has just been so awesome throughout this entire thing. So yeah, how do you balance it? I think to me, I know sports are on pretty much every single night, and people want to watch them every single night. And people ask me, "Hey, did you catch that game?" There are some times where I go, nope, I didn't, because I put away my phone. We watched a TV show together, or we just talked for a couple of hours. I think it's very important to shut out the world from time to time. Sports is definitely a job. It's a hobby for a lot of people. And for me, considering it is my job, it's as soon as I get home, no work related things until baby goes to bed, and then do some stuff, and at the very end make sure to spend time with my wife. So it's very, very challenging, and it has only become more difficult for me as more and more roles have been thrown into my world. But the best part is just having a wife who says go for it. And golly, early on in my career in Salina, when we started dating, there was one moment where I was going to help out producing for K-State, and they asked me to go down to Norman, Oklahoma for an 11 a.m. kick, K-State, Oklahoma. And I looked at her and said, hey, I got play-by-play for high school football that night. I'm going to drive down to Wichita, stay with you, and then I'm going to, beeline it at like 3 o'clock in the morning to make sure I get to Norman in time or wherever it is. And she never once flinched. She legit just looked at me and said, go, go do it. And then I wake up in the morning, I got a bag of goodies, some snacks that she packed from race. This was back when we were dating. And there was a note, and I still have the note in my car. And it's just a reminder of just how grateful I am to have her in my world, to completely have my back and to completely say, I'm going to make the decision for you. You're doing it. Go and do it. And in previous worlds, that was not the case for me. It was always a little bit different, where I gotta say no because of this. And look, and I know with baby number two on the way, I'm gonna have to say no to more things. I get that. But I'm just so grateful to have a wife who just completely supports me in everything that I do.
No, well said. And your conference geography probably does you no favors either, because you do have some pretty
All
long
over the
road trips.
place. Yeah, Philly. You go out to New Orleans. You got Denton, Texas. Tulsa, Oklahoma is my favorite trip because it's only 2.5 hours away from Wichita. But then you go out to Florida for a tournament, and you name it. Go out to California for a swing trip. There's a lot of travel involved.
Well, I know you got a show to get to, so yeah, let's move on to Fast Five. First question. So, who is the tallest sports broadcaster in Kansas? You've got to be right up there, right?
You
Because
know,
are you 6'6"? Have you grown since high school? I thought
no,
I had.
I've not grown. If anything, I've
Okay.
shrunk. I've grown around the waist, but I haven't grown up. I can tell you that. I gotta say, it can't be me though, because it's got to be Mark Ewing.
Oh,
I
Mark
ran
Ewing,
into
that's true.
Mark not too long ago, and
That's true.
Mark and I see eye to eye. So I think Mark's got me beat by an inch or two, and he might be slumping a little bit. Mark, if you're watching, I mean that like loving way. All right, I don't mean that in a way of like you're getting old, but yeah, I think Mark might have me beat a little bit, but if I'll take second tallest, that's fine. I'll claim that one.
I know you've mentioned a few sports broadcasters' names. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of sports broadcasters, either Kansas or
Oh,
combined Kansas nationally? I mean, who are the kind of the top four you really look up to?
well, this shouldn't surprise anyone. Kevin Harlan. Kevin Harlan is the guy because he does everything. He does everything. TV, radio, doesn't matter what it is, he makes it exceptional. And I've been fortunate the last couple of years going to Super Bowl Radio Row to run into him multiple times and getting
Is
a
that the
chance to
photo? I
take
know
a
you shared
picture.
a photo of you and Kevin. Was that at
Yeah, that's me and
Super Bowl?
Kevin. Yeah, I figured it's like, hey, you guys, let's talk. And Kevin's just been so gracious. So Kevin Harlan's by far and away, my number one. It's not even close. Number two, I probably have to give it up to Jim Nance because I think Nance really nails his calls. He's such a good storyteller. So I probably put Nance up there. One guy that really doesn't get enough pub is Mike Tirico. I think Tirico. is incredible. First memory I have of Mike Tirico is him doing NBA Finals on radio. And I'm like, this guy's better on radio than he is on TV. I didn't think that was possible. So I thought he was, yeah, he's definitely up there on my list. And then lastly, man, see, I'm just trying to keep it all nationally, because look, Bob Davis had the pipes, and rest in peace, Bob. Bob was such a fun person to be around. No better storyteller, no better joke teller than Bob Davis. Wyatt Thompson does a tremendous job. Mike Kennedy's been doing it for decades. If I can just have a tenth of his shelf life in radio, I will be a successful broadcaster because that dude has just done so many different things. And then there's a lot of guys too at different levels who I think are great as well in this state. And I could go through them all, but I feel like I'm going to leave someone off the list, and I'm going to get a text message from someone saying, "Hey, you didn't mention me," that type of thing. So for the sake of making sure that I just keep it national, last but not least for me, I'd probably say Joe Buck. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Joe Buck, but I don't know, man. Just because he doesn't like your team, or just because you think that way, he's doing what he needs to do, and what he is doing is describing what the storyline is. And the storyline is, if Madison Bumgarner's dominating the Royals in the World Series, he should probably be talked about every other break. It's fine. That's what we do as play-by-play guys. So I'll probably go with that.
Okay, that's a great list. Question three: what is your first sports memory from watching an event on TV or say radio? Was there that one memory you remember as a kid that really clicked with you?
Yeah. See, and I'm a little different. So you ask radio people, and they'll probably tell you, "Oh, I wanted to be in this industry when I was 10."
Yeah.
I was 18 when I decided to
Oh
be in
wow.
radio. When I got to KU, I went there to be a sports writer. That's what I wanted to do. And I went to this one meeting accidentally, and walk outside feeling embarrassed to see a group of guys having a slice of pizza. I walked over, and before I can grab one, guy walks up and says, "Michael Spiro, KGHK sports director." And then that's how I got into radio, was
Hmm.
because of that one accidental moment outside the Kansas Union. Crazy to think about that, but that's exactly what happened in my world. So I don't really have like a ton of radio experience or TV or whatever. I know when we talk about Super Bowls, everyone asks you, what's your favorite Super Bowl memory? What's the first one? When you have the Titans and Rams being tackled at the 1 yard line, the stretch, that's probably the first one that really jumps out to me. Um, so yeah, I'll probably go with that
Okay.
because there's so many I can go with. But I was late to the radio game. I listened to Bob Davis growing up. I listened to Mitch. I listened to so many different guys, but wasn't really a radio guy until I got into the actual industry, and then that's when I decided, you know what, I should probably pay attention to these guys. These guys probably know a thing or two, and thankfully, I've been able to talk to a lot of them, and a lot of them have been good mentors and good friends. So I'll probably just stick with the Super Bowl memory because that's one that's always etched in my brain.
Okay. I know we mentioned you've spent your entire career in Kansas. So a little bit of Kansas geography for you.
Oh
Besides
boy.
Seneca, can you name three towns in Nemaha County?
Specifically Nemaha County. Well, I have to say Sabetha, even though they're
But
a rival. Um,
yeah,
you're
they're
welcome.
right on the that
Yeah,
county line. I know.
you're
Yeah.
welcome, Blue Jays. You're welcome for me to say that. Baylorville is just
Yep.
5 minutes away from Seneca, so that part's easy. Let's see, and then I'd probably go with. I want to make sure I name something. I want to really like show off. Man, what's the one that's outside there? Kelly, Oneida, maybe? No,
Yeah, Kelly. That's where my dad he grew up.
we'll
Yeah.
go with Kelly then, because I'm trying to think of ones that most people maybe probably wouldn't have heard of.
I
Of
thought you'd say
course,
Centralia.
you see, yeah, well, see, and I'm gonna have a bunch of Centralia people text me now. There you go. You didn't have Centralia there on the list. Like, gosh, I can see them right now. Going to my gates with pitchforks, one in my head now. But
Yeah, and you
uh,
can't forget Corning.
yeah,
Great.
Corning. Yeah, I think there's a reason why I leave them off the list because they beat us in soccer so many
Oh,
times when I was younger. So that's probably why I forget them all the time. But you're welcome, Sabetha. You made the list. How about that?
Last question. Final fours this weekend. And I have the expert here. Who's your pick? Who's going to win it all?
Oh man. Well, my national championship game was Houston and Florida. I almost want to hedge and go Duke in Florida because I think Duke is on a whole nother planet right now with Cooper Flag and the way that he's been playing. Duke is having a UConn like run right now. They are just steamrolling people left and right. Does Houston have enough firepower is the question. I think they're good defensively. That's why I relied on Kelvin Sampson because I think that they are a very quality team, but I also think they also could be in for a long night just based on what Cooper Flag does. So I'll probably hedge. I'll go Duke in Florida, and I think Florida Auburn is going to be a thriller of a game too. Both teams are really good, but if I had to pick Duke Florida, got to go with Duke. I'm going to go ahead
I
and
like it.
pivot. As much as I love Florida, Walker Clayton Jr. has been on a whole nother level too. He's been such a stud for the Gators. They're the best offense. You have the best defense on the other side in Houston, but I think it comes down to Florida and Duke, and I'll go ahead and change my initial pick and ride with the Duke Blue Devils.
Awesome. I like it. Hey, Pat, I know you're extremely busy. I always like to close with a cheers to your career. I think you got an old school KU mug close
Yeah,
by, which I like to see.
this is probably a hand-me-down. I don't know if people can see that or not, but this is a hand-me-down from probably I was one of four in my family to go to KU. So I think this is a hand-me-down cup. As you can see, the old school KU logo, and if you need proof, you can just see the Jayhawk fading a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, cheers, Steve. Thank you so
All right.
much for your time. Really appreciate this, and yeah, man, this has been fun. So I appreciate you.
All right. Well, have a great show. Thanks, Pat.